What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Timeout with Doc and Caveman. As always, I am Dr. Fantasy here with the Fantasy Caveman. We have lots of NBA news to get into this week, so I'm just going to dive right in so we don't have to skip over any of this and feel rushed. So the first thing we have on the docket here is Jrue Holiday and the Olympic team. So a little bit of news here, and we talked about the initial Olympic pool maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago now. And there was news this week that Jrue Holiday has essentially locked himself a spot in Team USA. And I read a few other reports that basically said 9 of the 12 spots are locked in right now, which is kind of interesting. So is Jrue Holiday, LeBron, Joel Embiid, as long as he's healthy, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Devin Booker. So that's 9 of 12. And then Joel Embiid is the only big man on that list. So a lot of people are assuming Anthony Davis kind of has to be, or Bam, if Anthony Davis doesn't end up participating, will have to be the 10th just to have some more size. So that's pretty much the entire roster. But I messaged you initially earlier in the week because I thought the Jrue Holiday news was kind of interesting when you looked at how stacked that Olympic pool is. So what do you think about some of this initial news around the Olympic pool?
Oh, I think that, I think it's kind of, wouldn't say a no-brainer, but I think it's not a surprise to me, and I think it's not only well-deserved, but I think this team kind of needs a Jrue Holiday on their squad. He's not like he's a scrub, looking at, he helped them win gold in Tokyo and scored, averaged 12 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Solid numbers across the last Olympic Games, and he has the right mindset. He said he'd feel honored to represent the country again in the Olympics. And people, I don't know if as many, he's known she's an Olympic athlete, but I think some people might forget that his wife is also a decorated Olympian as well. So, he's the right kind of guy to have on this team. You look at, where we don't really have, the Olympic team doesn't really have a ton of guys that are known for defense, really.
Well, you could say that again.
So it's like you need a guy like Jrue Holiday. That's why obviously Anthony Davis or Bam are going to be on the team to kind of help provide some defense as well. But I think he's kind of needed if you look at the rest of the construction of this roster.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think that it's crazy, personally,
Really?
because when I look at how talented this roster is, I went through and I didn't do like a perfect ranking system, but I basically said, who would I rather have over Jrue Holiday? And he was number 30 out of 41 for me. He is very far down on this list, and I understand defensively, and I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a guy like Chet sneak in there too, because of how good he's been defensively as well, and they do need some more big men. But I don't know. It just feels like you have star players who play quality defense as well, like Jimmy Butler that you could put on this list. You have, he's not really a superstar, I guess. I like Desmond Bane. He was just one of the first ones that I saw on here. It's fair when you look at it defensively that they're going to need somebody. But even Kawhi, I guess, Paul George, both play solid defensively. Like, I feel like I'd rather have someone like that who has more offensive upside as well. But, I think you're going to see a big chunk of the guys coming back from the last round, which I think is a part of this from a team chemistry perspective. I would even rather have Derek White, his teammate, probably at this point, over Jrue Holiday.
That's interesting.
I don't think that's an unfair statement at all, but they have similar skill sets and similar reasons for why you would put them on the Olympic roster. So at that point, Jrue Holiday's already been through it, so why not? But I don't know, it's just crazy looking to me at how much talent there is, and he's gonna make it.
Yeah, but I think the coaches kind of value the experience and leadership. I think that's kind of playing a big factor here. I mean, I think it seems like you're kind of downplaying that aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's not always. I mean, you want like our best players, but the U.S. has had a tendency to not always be, their sharpest, at times. I think I think Jrue Holiday is a good guy to have on there to kind of, he's gonna play the right way. Like defensively, like I mean, you also
get my boy Scotty Barnes in there. Come on now.
You also got to consider I don't think all these people, some of these people that you mentioned, I don't think everybody necessarily wants to play in the Olympics.
Yeah, probably not.
So you got to think, there might be some behind the scenes stuff, like they have a feeling that some guys aren't gonna want to play, So that you mentioned guys like Paul George, like Kawhi, like Jimmy, who's to say all these guys actually want to play?
Yeah, Kawhi doesn't. I know that much.
So that also plays a factor. Although we don't know, it'll be interesting what the rest of this roster looks like. I mean, you can say we still got a couple spots that they got to decide. So it'll be interesting what the rest of this construction looks like.
I think you'll see a lot of youth because when you look at this roster, there is going to be some turnover the next Olympic go around because LeBron probably won't be there. Kevin Durant and Steph Curry are getting towards the end. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw guys like Banchero maybe make it as one of the last guys on the bench because you would think that he's one of the future faces of the Olympics over the next, few go arounds here. So maybe you see guys like Chet and Paulo and trying to think other young guys that are on the list. Those are the first two that come to mind. I'm looking quickly through the list to see if there's any other young. I mean, Jalen Brunson's not as young, but I think that he would be a good one to have a part of this. Scotty Barnes is always my boy, so I always throw Scotty Barnes in there.
I think I especially consider. I mean, Paolo's not like big man, but he's still
got size. Yeah,
he does give you a little bit of size. So I think I don't want to say he's a lock, but I'd be kind of shocked if a guy like Paolo isn't one of the final couple here.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, he's been a lot better defensively. He provides a little bit there too. So yeah, that would be my guess though. As you see some of these young guys towards the end of the bench, and I mean they did that a little bit with Keldon Johnson the last go around, and I mean he's definitely not making it. We know that much, but they like to include some young guys in there to get some experience. So that's the Olympic pool. We'll keep everybody updated as there's more information that comes out about that. But there was 7 confirmed names, and then a lot of people are assuming Anthony Edwards and Halliburton, who are on the last roster, will be there as well. So let's head over to some injury news. We had Russell Westbrook go down with a fractured hand. No timetable for his return. I was just saying before we recorded too that Jalen Brunson went down the other night with a knee contusion. So got some of these injuries starting to pile up, but specifically with Russell Westbrook, definitely an important piece, especially considering how tight the West is right now for the Clippers. Reading a little bit that Bones Highland's going to have to pick up a lot of the slack off the bench as their starting, or not starting, but kind of the lead guard off of the bench. So he's shown some flashes in his young career of being a pretty good scorer. He's definitely not the level that Russell Westbrook is. But what do you think? How do you think this impacts the Clippers?
I think it all depends on the timeline of how long he's gonna be out. I think the good thing is I think they've done enough this season, with figuring out the lineups and how all these pieces are gonna mesh. It seems like they figured it out, well enough where if he misses a good chunk of, let's say he misses most of the rest of the regular season, for example. I think in that sense, like, I think they'll be okay. But then again, I'm only just thinking, it's still, when you're coming down the stretch, you just kind of want to get guys into form and kind of want to get everybody on the same page come playoff time. So, it's not great from a team chemistry perspective. And like I said, I mean, everybody, like from what I've been hearing and what I've been reading, everybody's just been talking about how they'll miss him as a leader, his hustle and just just what Russell Westbrook brings to the floor. I mean, he is kind of like their only real playmaker off the bench, right, this season. So, they'll have to figure out in the short term who's going to step up to kind of be a playmaker off the bench, because you said Bones Highland's going to pick up most of the minutes in that spot, but Bones Highland isn't exactly known as a playmaker. He's kind of like a spark plug segment. He can definitely, I think he could definitely provide some of the scoring that Russell Westbrook provided, but they're gonna have to figure out, when one of their stars, when one of the stars isn't on the court, how they're gonna replace the playmaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to replace. I mean, at this point, I mean, I had a similar injury, not to say that I'm an NBA star, but when I played football, and it took me about 2 months to come back. So, we'll just say that it's 2 months for him to return, so he's coming back around playoff time then. I mean, because that's, to me, all that really matters at the Clippers right now. Not to say that positioning and seeding doesn't matter, and they definitely want to stay out of the play-in tournament, but at this point they really just need to be healthy for the playoffs, because that's all that matters. I've read some interesting articles about how there's some rumors that some teams are going to want to win or lose to set themselves up for a better first round matchup, which is kind of interesting. Right now the Clippers are set up to play the Pelicans in the first round of the playoffs, which feels like a pretty darn good matchup for them. And nothing against the Pelicans, but of all the teams in the playoffs, that's probably the team that I would want to play the most. They're just young, they're very unproven. I think it's a good matchup. That's a team of all of them, because even the Thunder, yes, they're young, but they have so much talent. The Timberwolves have stars, the Nuggets, the Kings even have De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, Kevin Durant and the Suns, Luka, Steph Curry, LeBron. Like, I'd want to play the Pelicans. So it'll be interesting to see who they end up playing in the first round. They're 5 games up right now from the 7 seed, so they're not in a ton of danger of being in the play-in, but I mean, a bad enough losing streak, and they could be. But I think, to me, that's the most important thing here. They just need to stay afloat so that they stay out of the play-in tournament. They get them back for playoff time, and they're in a good – because if they don't, this is – I mean, maybe it's not dramatic, but I don't think that if Paul George, James Harden, Kawhi, and Russell Westbrook, all 4 of them are healthy, I don't think the Clippers are a threat to win at all, honestly. I think they need all 4 of those guys in order to make a deep run, and definitely becomes more and more important throughout the playoffs. Those are some tough, long-winded, gritty games that you're playing, so you need to be at full strength. So, I mean, it's pretty important, but it looks like my guess for the timeline, I'm not a doctor, obviously. Well, I guess I am a fantasy, but I would assume he'd be back early playoff time, first round or so, and if so, I don't think it'll have too much of an impact on their season.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at that. I'm just looking at the first game without Russell Westbrook. They played that oddly. I think it was more just neither team could shoot or do anything, but they beat Minnesota. I mean,
yeah, see, they're fine.
89 to 88.
That's right. I had some money on that game for the Clippers, and
but if I'm looking at the box score, just trying to kind of forecast. I mean, James Harden, he's going to be their Holy crap! James Harden had 10 assists, but went 0 for 10 and 0 for 6 from 3.
That's pretty impressive when you can win with James Harden score. What, he's have like 4 points?
And he played 34 minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of
I
impressive.
mean, but like looking at the assist, like nobody else had more than 2. So it's like, I mean, it's partly skewed because this game looks like it was just a mess all around, but it's gonna be interesting to see, who steps up in the interim, because while they might not be in danger of really, they're obviously not gonna miss the playoffs, and I don't think they're in a ton of danger of like missing going into the play-in, but if they have a tough first round matchup, couple that with the fact that they might not be going into it with any momentum, I mean, that's not an ideal situation. So, hopefully they can get Russell Westbrook back sooner rather than later. I'm reading that he suffered the same kind of injury like many years ago and missed 14 games or whatever. But that was also a long time ago, and he's also older. As you get older, things tend to take longer to heal. So, do it that way you will. But I think it's gonna come as long as they can stay afloat and, I wouldn't say tread water, but as long as they can, you know, as long as they can hover around what they're at right now and they can stay in kind of this seeding until Russell Westbrook gets back, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, and I guess I'll switch over to other injury news / another team trying to avoid being in the play-in tournament, but that's the 76ers with Joel Embiid, who there's some news on his injury. It was reported that he was starting to do some on-court workouts, which typically means that maybe you're starting to ramp up to start practicing and playing in the near future. I think that'll be an interesting story to monitor as well. The 76ers overall have kind of stayed together. They've been 6-8 while he's out, which doesn't sound great. But the thing that's really been benefiting them is the Pacers have been 5-5 over their last 10. The Knicks are 3-7 over their last 10. So some of these teams, the Cavaliers have been 5-5 over their last 10. So
see, their story's over. So
yeah,
much for them.
And that's it. No, but yeah, I mean, seriously, though, like, I think that's part of the 76ers still sitting as the 5 seed. They're only a game up of Miami, who is the 7 seed right now. So, I mean, definitely in danger of falling out of the play-in tournament. I've watched some parts of their games. I don't know if I've watched any full 76ers games since he's been out. I kind of like how they're playing. They're playing very much together, and they're playing gritty defensively and doing what it takes to be competitive while he's out, which I can respect. But yeah, I mean, that's going to have huge implications. This is a team, I mean, I feel semi-secure in their playoff future just because even if they make the play-in tournament and Joel Embiid is healthy, I don't think there's a team that's going to knock them out of the play-in tournament with him. But it'll be interesting to see when he comes back and what positioning they're in. But so far, they've kind of held up and held it together.
Yeah. It also, it's starting injuries, have piled up for him early on. So while, it's encouraging that he's resuming on-court work and everything, the Sixers got to be very careful with how they manage this going forward, because he's still the centerpiece of their franchise. And Tyrese Maxey been balling, but no offense to Tyrese Maxey, but if it's just Tyrese Maxey and not Joel Embiid heading into the playoffs, they're in a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah.
But so they need Joel Embiid. And also a little concerning is that Joel Embiid came out and said that he wants to return to play this season no matter what their record is.
Oh, let's not get crazy here.
So I mean that's what he said. So it's feeling like a situation where if things go south for him this season, you're gonna have to protect Joel Embiid from himself and step in. So hopefully that's not a situation that arises. Not obviously on a much bigger scale, but kind of like when we just talked about the Clippers and Russell Westbrook, they just have to tread water and kind of just stay where they're at. And I think as long as Joel Embiid comes back, they'll be fine. And as long as Joel Embiid comes back and he's healthy enough, I mean, they can make a run. I mean, they're that, So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of funny, actually, now that I'm looking at the rest of our news today. We have a lot in the Eastern Conference, so we're going to stay at the top of the Eastern Conference here and talk a little bit about the Milwaukee Bucks here, who have moved themselves up to the number 2 seed. They're on a 5-game winning streak as we sit here right now, so they're starting to string a few wins together here. But this happened, 2 weeks ago maybe. JJ Redick on his podcast made some comments about Doc Rivers, who he played for during his playing career. And the gist of it is he kind of laid into Doc Rivers and said that he was always making excuses. And he called out Doc Rivers for failing to take accountability when his teams have been through adversity, saying, he's basically pushing it on the players, and he was never willing to take accountability as the head coach of franchise. And we've seen Doc Rivers have his fair share of collapses throughout his career. So kind of interesting. And JJ Redick kind of doubled down too, saying that he didn't regret saying it. He regretted how he said it, because it seemed like they must have had some sort of exchange when he played, because he was very heated when he was talking about this. So he said that he kind of regrets being emotional about saying it, but he didn't regret saying it because it's how he saw it as a player for Doc Rivers. So kind of interesting to hear that perspective. I don't know if it would make me feel warm and fuzzy as a Bucks fan to hear a former player talk about him like that, but what do you think about it?
I mean, I side with what Patrick Beverley said about the situation. Patrick Beverley came and chimed in to defense of Doc Rivers, as well as, I mean, to no shock, I mean, Austin Rivers defended his
that's shocking.
father as well. Shocking. But Patrick Beverley brought up the key point here. JJ Redick's best years in the NBA were under Doc Rivers when he was coaching the Clippers. Am I wrong? I think those are his best. Those are his best playing days, and I think, like, it doesn't feel right for him to come out and just put Doc Rivers on blast and say all this stuff when Doc Rivers has played a key role in JJ Redick having the career that he did. So, I mean, Patrick Beverley basically, then ripped into JJ Redick, which, first of all, I love that Patrick Beverley's on the Bucks. I mean, he's so entertaining, like, just like, and you could tell, like, Patrick Beverley knows basketball. I mean, you have to know basketball to be in the NBA, but he really seems like he knows that he's a very high basketball IQ. So I think Patrick Beverley knows what he's talking about. So, for him to come out and basically defend Doc Rivers, I mean, that's enough for me. I'm not too worried about what JJ Redick said anymore. I mean, he's just it's like an analyst on it. Who cares? He's not playing anymore.
He's a loser.
but like, honestly, like, I mean, I'm interested to see what you think on this, but I don't see why he felt the need to say what he said, and right now he's looking a little stupid because the Bucks are starting to play well. So I mean granted, 2 of the wins have been against the Hornets,
yeah,
and one
that
of them has
barely
been
counts.
and then one of them has been against the Sixers without Joel Embiid. But they did beat Minnesota, so that's a quality win. But what is your whole take on the situation?
I mean, JJ Redick likes to make big splashy comments on his podcast. I mean, there's been several times where he makes kind of these statements that people highly debate. I think he, does it for the clicks and views. Nothing wrong with that. That's a business that he's in now. I mean, I don't read anything in the Patrick Beverley saying anything. I mean, he's going to defend his coach. What is he going to be like? Oh, I completely agree with what JJ Redick said. So I personally weigh what JJ Redick says more than what Patrick Beverley says because he currently plays for him. JJ Redick would have never said that when he was playing for him. He absolutely would not have. So, I mean, there's got to be some level of credibility to it, in my opinion, even if he's trying to get clicks. Maybe he did it a little more emotionally than he needed to, and that was for the clicks. But I think there's got to be some sort of true sentiment to what he said. So I think the most important piece now is Doc Rivers can't make this a storyline. So if the Bucks start losing, and I mean not even start losing now because nobody cares about the regular season at this point, but if the Bucks don't make a far run, people are going to point back to this comment and say, "Oh, see, what JJ Redick said. He's not a leader. He doesn't take accountability." So that's all Doc Rivers needs to focus on at this point. If they win the championship, I mean, maybe even if they make the finals. I mean, if they beat the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, that almost feels like a championship within itself. And I know that sounds extreme, but I mean, I don't think many people are expecting them to beat the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. So that's all he has to focus on right now. I think it's not a storyline right now, but it's going to be a storyline if they don't keep winning. So.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand, finally, in the grand scheme of things, I just think this was just something JJ Redick trying to stay in the spot. I don't know if he's trying to stay in the spotlight or whatever, but in the grand scheme of things, I think this is gonna kind of mean nothing.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
So something worked. All right, let's stay in the Eastern Conference once again here. There's kind of a weird moment this week with Dejounte Murray of the Atlanta Hawks where I was watching the video again today and I was like, this is the weirdest thing that I've seen in a long time. So he got a technical foul the other night, and I can't remember who they were even playing now, but he got a technical foul. And basically what happened is he went over on the bench and the referee, Tony Brothers, came over and was trying to continue some sort of conversation from a call that was just made. And Dejounte Murray just kind of ignored him and didn't even respond and was like, kind of like, we're not talking about this. And Dejounte Murray didn't look heated or anything. He kind of just, seemed to like shake his head like, no, I'm not going to talk about this. And then the referee ended up giving him a technical foul. And it's interesting when I read more into it. NBA players are actually coached and trained on from coaching staffs and the NBA's league office that whenever they're in a heated debate with an official or they feel like it's going to get heated, that they should just walk away and not have the conversation. Mm-hmm. So he actually did exactly what he was supposed. He didn't engage, and I mean, he didn't cuss at him from what anyone could see. It seemed like he just kind of waved him off and said, let's not worry about it. Let's move on. And then he got teed up. So, but an even more interesting move after the game, the NBA came out and took away the technical fouls. It's basically saying that Dejounte Murray was right and the referee was in the wrong here. So just kind of a bizarre situation. I can't remember something like that ever happening where they rescinded a technical foul. I'm sure it's happened, but just kind of bizarre news.
Yeah, the whole situation is very puzzling. Now, it's worth noting that Tony Brothers is like a vet. I think he's been a referee for like 30 seasons or something. So he's been around a while. Unfortunately, he is regarded as one of the worst refs in the NBA. He's not very well. I mean, none of the refs are like super respected by the players, but him more than others. He's really not respected by the players at all, and even before this incident. So I don't know if it seems like it's a situation where Tony Brothers got in his feelings. And if that's the case, that's an issue. It's not so much that, it was a bad tech. Everybody knows it was a bad technical foul. But if we're talking, referees are going to make calls based on emotion and if players hurt their feelings or not, I think that is the bigger issue in this scheme of things. I mean, Dejounte Murray did exactly what he should have did. Because the thing is, if he would have engaged with Tony Brothers with whatever he was, he was trying to say, he would have got teed up anyways. So, what was Dejounte Murray supposed to do to avoid a technical foul there? I'm starting to I'm really starting to think about that. So I just think this speaks to more of like a general ref problem is that the referees are making calls based on emotion and how the players make them feel. I mean, then that's a whole other issue that needs to be looked at.
Yeah. So what are you saying? You just want AI to take over and be the official, so there's no emotions in it? Just gonna have robotic refs on the side?
I mean, I don't know. It seems like the MLB wants to go that direction with the umpires, but
that'll end up happening.
Yeah. But like, there's like the human aspect, which I think is good. Like, it's not, you want like the human. You don't want the game to be taken over by AI and robot and whatnot, but you don't want the. It seems like he teed him up because Dejounte Murray hurt his feelings by ignoring him.
Yeah, it does seem like that.
That's what it's, and that's the part that's you can't have that part in the game. You can't have the refs making emotional calls. And I think this is kind of. I'm hoping this is just an outlier. I mean, like you said, we haven't really. I personally have never seen a player get a tech for just ignoring a referee. First of all, I haven't. I think this speaks to Dejounte Murray. I don't think many players would ignore the referee.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
So, like the only thing that this sets a very bad precedent going forward. I think that's another thing. So there's so many layers to this, and there's so many things that could happen as a result of this that should have never happened. So it's a frustrating. It's just a frustrating. I don't think it's nothing. I think this is a problem that we're gonna unless they get rid of Tony Brothers, which I don't see happening. It's very hard to get rid of referees. It's not that easy. This isn't good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was thinking about that a little bit while you were just talking too. I was like, how do they hold refs accountable? I feel like there's been some really, really bad ones over time, and they just end up officiating for 30 years still. It doesn't even matter. So, that's probably a bigger management concern for Adam Silver. How are we holding these refs accountable? But fun fact on Tony Brothers. So for the 2022-2023 season, they had a poll for where the players vote on the best and worst referees in the league.
Uh-huh.
So Tony Brothers was voted the best referee in the NBA. However, he also received the second most votes for worst referee. So he is. I don't even know how that's possible. Most votes for best referee, second most votes for worst referee. So I'm not even sure what to read into that. But
I
I
don't even
guess
know. I don't know how to interpret that.
so. I guess it just depends on the night, whether or not he's in a good mood. And it's funny.
Hey,
There was a one comment that a player made anonymously that said he interacts with us instead of taking everything personally. So I just find that very ironic during this entire situation. But
maybe there's something behind the scenes where Murray said something to his wife, or
something, yeah, I don't know. It
I
was
don't. Maybe there's like it's hard. It seems kind of wild and far fetched to say something like that, but when you got a very obscene or very obscure incident like this, it does kind of make you wonder: does something happen between them behind the scenes?
yeah,
If that's the case, we're never gonna find out about that. But it does make you question something like that.
oh yeah, no, it does seem almost personal at that point. So very interesting. Let's head over to the most positive and the last topic that we have on the list today. So usually we talk about the Warriors first because I just want to get it out of the way. But in this case, we're saving bad Warriors news for last because that's good.
You're forgetting about LeBron.
Oh, we don't want to need to talk. Well, fine. We'll talk about LeBron first. LeBron hit 40,000 points. Yeah, whatever. He's pretty good. The first player ever to hit 40,000 points. And now I've read a few conversations in Facebook groups about people debating who the next person over 40,000 points is going to be.
That's where I wanted to go. Like, not so much LeBron, because the only thing I will say about like LeBron specifically is that it's very funny, and Anthony Davis said something about this in after LeBron reached the milestone in which they lost to the Denver Nuggets. He was like, LeBron needs to stop breaking records because we keep losing.
Yeah.
So
And they did
I
lose
just
that
thought
game.
that was an interesting. But that's where I wanted. That's where I was gonna kind of go. Is what active player has the best shot to reach this milestone.
So what's the answer? You have the answer?
And the answer is no one.
No one.
I don't. Okay, so I mean, I'm sure you have the list too, but if you look after LeBron, you got Kevin Durant, who is second, who is only has 28,000 points, so he's
12,000.
almost 13,000 points behind LeBron, and I don't see Durant playing that long. Not only that, LeBron's not done. So that has to be factored into the situation.
I don't know if we're talking about who's going to pass LeBron, but who could get to 40,000? Is there anybody that
who could get to 40? I mean,
Kevin Durant will probably have to play another 6-ish seasons.
What is he, 34, 35 right 35. Now? So that's... Do I expect Kevin Durant to have LeBron like longevity?
No.
I don't think it's gonna. I don't think James Harden's up there too. I don't think James Harden's gonna reach it. Russell Westbrook's not gonna reach it. Steph's not gonna reach it. I'm looking down the list. I mean, Giannis. It's still early, but Giannis still only 26 or 27. He's at 8, so he needs 22,000 more points. I mean, if Giannis wants to
He's
play
29, by the way, just saying.
Giannis 29?
Yeah.
Lord, I thought he was like 27. So, whew. I'm looking down this list, man, and this is like obviously not Chris Paul. I don't think Damian. Like all these guys are so far down there. I mean, I don't like. I'm just going down this list. I mean, trying to find. I mean, definitely not Rudy Gay, who's somehow 10th.
Rudy. Oh no, it will be Rudy Gay.
I mean, surprised they still count Kemba Walker as active, but I mean, there's no. I'm sorry. I don't. I mean, if Giannis has longevity, I mean, maybe, but if I'm betting my life savings, I don't think anybody is.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes down to it's one of the. It's not to say LeBron obviously hasn't been great for a long, long time, but I mean, it feels like it's going to be more of a longevity kind of award. I mean, you're going to have to look at the young guns at this point, and when you look at some of the younger guys who are even like in the top 50. So Luka right now, who's only he just turned 25 like a week ago, has almost 11,000 points. And just for reference, at the same age, LeBron had 14,000. So he's still like 3,000. But I mean, and he's got the rest of the season. So still, he's going to finish a good 2,500 or so points behind where LeBron was at this pace. So I mean, I don't know though if I have confidence that Luka's going to be the type of player that plays for a super long time. I mean,
Trae Young?
I mean, I think to me the most likely is Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum right now is probably going to end the season with about 12,000. He just turned 26 as of a day ago of this recording, so he's still young. He's 46th all time in points. Like, so you're talking that after this season he'll be 26 and he's going to be about 2,000 behind the pace that LeBron has been on. I mean, to me, that's probably you're looking at somebody like that as the most likely.
But then again, we're talking no matter who it is, they're gonna have to have similar longevity that LeBron is.
Oh yeah, that's the problem is the longevity.
That's the problem. Like Jason Tatum could be on this pace, for the next 10 plus years if he wants to, but unless he's willing to push 40 years old and still be playing in the league and playing at the kind of pace LeBron's been able to play at as he's approached 40, like it's just not gonna. And that's the thing about LeBron. Like there's just it's not so much the scoring, like scoring a lot of points per season, because anybody can do. A lot of people can do that. I mean, you mentioned Luka and Tatum, his Tatum's teammate Jaylen Brown. I mean, a lot of these younger guys are going to score a lot of points, but it comes down to the longevity, and I don't think that anybody. I mean, of course, it's way too early, and we'll be, but this is the problem. We're looking at, if we're talking about guys that could possibly do it, we're talking guys, we're like over 10 years, close to 15 years away from maybe somebody doing it.
It's going to be Cooper Flag. You know Cooper Flag?
Well, it's gonna be Bronny, man.
Oh gosh, that would be stupid. I mean, so the way that you could make up for longevity, I mean, you're gonna need some level of longevity. You don't necessarily have to push what LeBron had longevity-wise, but you could have it with a better peak scoring average. So not to say LeBron's was low, but for example, he only had one season where he averaged 30 points or more per game, and it was exactly 30.0 points per game. Luka already, this is going to be his second season at 25, averaging over 30 points. So, like, over the long term of his career, if he's averaging 5 more points per game for 5 years longer than LeBron, he could theoretically make up some of that ground. So maybe he wouldn't have to play till he's 40. He'd only have to play till he's 38. So there, much better.
But there's a difference between just reaching 40,000, and then it's a whole other argument of surpassing LeBron.
Oh yeah, I don't know if that's
because
I'm
LeBron's not. Yeah, we were talking about surpassing 40,000, or even surpassing, surpassing Kareem, or moving into second all time. Because I think that's what we're talking about.
Probably.
I don't think there's ever going to be anybody by the time it's all said and done, whenever LeBron decides to retire at age 45 or something like that. I think he, for the rest of time, will be I think he's gonna have an unbreakable record.
I think it's gonna be Gilbert Arenas' son. I just saw that he scored 53 points in a high school game. I think it'll be Gilbert Arenas' son.
I mean, we're talking 30 years down at this point. But yeah, I don't think it's a record that. 40,000 maybe. Luka. I mean, you make a very compelling argument for Luka. But the problem is you're gonna kind of need Luka to not have go. You're basically telling me, okay, Luka's not gonna have a ton of help his whole career, and he's just gonna score a bunch of points. Because
he's having his all-time high in points this year, and with Kyrie.
Kyrie's played like 50% of the games this year.
Oh, that's more than normal, isn't it?
But you gotta think. Let's say, if you're thinking if Kyrie was healthy the entire season, I don't think Luka. I think he gets knocked down a couple points overall.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also a piece of it where I don't know how many people have the desire to play that long, and it's not to say that Luka doesn't have passion or desire or anything, but I just get this sense that he's going to make a ton of money, score a bunch of points, maybe get a championship at some point in his career and be good. Like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like most people have that chip on their shoulder where they need to play till they're 40 for really no reason at this point. LeBron James is a billionaire. He doesn't need to play basketball anymore. So at that point,
LeBron is like in his own stratosphere. Like he doesn't need it. And that's the thing. Like the amount of money, with endorsements money this days and just other deals and possibilities. First of all, it didn't exist when LeBron came into the league. There wasn't nearly as many opportunities as there is now.
Yeah.
With the amount of opportunity that's available to these players now, there's not a need for a guy to become, LeBron in terms of longevity. So I don't. We'll see, but I still don't think anybody reaches 40, much less. If I had to bet my life savings, which is like $10. I had to bet my life savings.
That's still a life savings, right?
I don't think anybody gets 40,000.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that. It's possible that it doesn't happen in our lifetime. It's kind of. Yeah, that's definitely possible. So, which is kind of interesting because NBA scoring is up so much more compared to decades ago, but players aren't playing as long, so it's a weird oxymoron there. So we'll see. Yeah, it'll be hard. I think that you're looking at some of those young guys though as the best possibility. You're not going to see Curry or Durant or any of those guys past that point of that happening for them. So
if Giannis plays though, he's 40. But Giannis, he wants to play. He loves basketball and wants to win. But at the same time, I get the feeling from Giannis that I don't see a world where Giannis plays till he's 40.
Yeah, it's hard to say that's just such a long time to play that it's like, I don't know how I could hold anybody for that.
I could see Curry playing until he's near 40, but I don't think Curry has any chance of, catching it at this point.
Yeah, he had a lot of injuries early in his career and missed a lot of time, and it took him a good, let's see, he didn't average 20 points until his fourth year in the league, and he stayed at college for all 4 years, or what did he, 3 years I think he was at Davidson. Either way, he played a little longer there, so yeah, it'll be tougher for Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Steph Curry, now we can talk about the Warriors sucking. Now that we got all the LeBron nonsense out of now. I can't even hate LeBron anymore, even though he's not the best player of all time. I can't hate that he's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
So the Warriors got absolutely demolished by the Celtics. They lost by 52 points. There's a few interesting notes here to make. The Celtics are on their season best 11 game winning streak. It was their third time this season winning by 50 or more points, which is an NBA record. And then 2 of the last 5 games they've won by 50, which is also tied for an all-time record. So we can talk about the Warriors stinking, and obviously, when you lose by 52 points, you didn't have a great night on the court. But to
Clearly.
me, there's not much else you can say to that point. You had Steph Curry score 4 points, was it? Yeah, he went 2 from 13 from the field, 0 for 9 from 3, which is just insanity for Steph Curry. They shot 7 for 41 from 3-point range the entire night, which is only 17%. So clearly there's no positives that come out of this game for the Golden State Warriors. However, it just continues to highlight. We said it last week, and I'll keep saying it probably for the rest of the regular season. If the Celtics do not win the NBA championship this year, I don't know if they ever will at this point, because they are clicking on all cylinders, and I don't really see what can prevent them from winning at this point. But this is just another check mark into why that is true and why that's the case.
Yeah, and I think there's both. If you look at both teams, I think there's things to take away from both. I don't think this I think people already forgot that coming into this game, the Warriors have been on a bit of a roll lately, and this just came to like a screeching halt. I don't know how more reality. I don't know how more humble you can get. But even you got Steph Curry saying he doesn't want them to dwell on this, and if they're gonna be a serious contender this season, they're gonna have to learn from this and move on. Typical of what you'd want your leader to say. But you're looking at the Warriors have been on they're 11 of their last 14 or something along those lines. So I don't think with the guys in this locker room, I don't think this loss in the long term is really going to affect them at all. But for as much shit that I've been talking about Klay Thompson this season, he did shoot 50%.
Yes, he used the bright spot there.
No, the bright spot was, I don't even know this guy's name. Lester Quinones scored 17 points. So
yeah, they were just throwing anybody in at that point.
but the Celtics are on a different level this season. This is, and we've been saying it, I think this is the Celtics, not just East. I think this is the Celtics. They're the team this year. They're the team that should win it all. I think they have, and even before this game, I think there is such a gap between Boston and anybody else in the league, not just the Eastern Conference. I think Boston is so far ahead of everybody right now that this just, amplifies that. Now, they did get some revenge on Golden. Sure, that played a little bit of a factor. They got some revenge on Golden State. And Steph Curry actually, aside, he was speaking about this game afterwards. He was like, "This is what we used to do to people." So, I mean, it's true.
True.
It's true. So it's like, it's just it's a weird time because the Warriors have been out of roll, but this isn't the same Warriors team. Boston's looking as strong as ever. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it matters that much. But it's not every day that you see, first of all, that you see any team get blown out by 52 points.
No.
Much less a team like Golden State with, you have Steph Curry. When you have Steph Curry on the court, you always feel you have a shot. And Steph, I wouldn't quite go to the level that Stephen A said. Stephen A was talking about it, and Stephen A, he's just the entertainment version. He was like, he said something along the lines of, I could go on the court, I could have been on the court, and they wouldn't have lost by that much. It's like, honestly, I don't know how far off he is. I don't think he's as far off as, if you look at, but yeah, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter a whole ton, but it's just not every day you see something like this.
No, yeah, except with the Celtics, I guess, where it happens 3 times in one season and then it becomes normal, but yeah, pretty bizarre. Just before we wrap up, I just have to give a quick shout out because we never, I mean, not never, but the Spurs have won back-to-back games. I just want to say something about the Spurs. And because we aren't going to ever get to talk about them except when Wemby wins Rookie of the Year. So, and it was against the Pacers and the Thunder. So that's 2 playoff teams that they beat in back-to-back wins. So I just want to throw that out there because I want to end on a positive note.
Oh, yeah. It's good for the Spurs. And this speaks to, just a point, piggyback off your point, you mentioned Wemby. I mean, while the season's a lost cause for the Spurs, I feel like it's been a lost cause since the second week of the season.
Fair.
But I think it's still important for them to finish this season on a high note. Or, just play hard because, this could be a situation where, if Wemby endures 2, 3, 4 seasons to start his career like this, he's going to want out of there pretty quickly.
Oh, for
and
sure.
If Wemby leaves the Spurs, let me tell you, I think a full season without Wemby, I think the Spurs would be the worst team in NBA history.
I don't know if there's probably.
I don't know if they win more than 5 games in a season without him. So, I think they need to do, and it feels wrong to say that any one player is bigger than the team, but the reality of the situation is Wemby's bigger than the team.
Oh gosh.
So they need to do whatever they can. I don't think this season specifically is gonna matter as much in the long run, as long as the Spurs build something off of this experience and try to do something going forward, So I think that's what I'm looking forward to with San Antonio.
Yeah, and speaking of the next player to get to 40,000, there he is.
No. Honestly,
maybe.
That was looking at the Spurs. They have 2 games. I think we might see. Wemby might be on that side of the 50-point loss because they got 2 games coming up against Golden State. So
they just beat the Thunder, so they're fine. They can beat anybody now. I mean, he is averaging the exact same amount that LeBron James averaged in his rookie season, just for the record. Next year is their year. They're going to draft Nikola Topic. I don't know if you've gotten to watch him yet, but he is Luka 2.0 out of Serbia. And if they pair Wemby with Nikola Topic, it's over.
You mean if they pair Wemby with Trae Young? That's what I heard.
Oh my. Okay.
You laugh, but that
I keep
has been
it.
like a serious, like that's not a rumor that means nothing.
I can't emphasize how big of a mistake that would be. If they, I mean, I've heard that. I mean, they most likely will have a top 5 pick, and that's kind of what the Hawks want. Like, if they're going to trade Trae Young, like they want a high end pick in return. And there's a lot of question marks this year at the top of the draft. But no, I'd rather take. I'll sound like an idiot, but I'd rather have Nikola Topic over Trae Young. He's going to be a better player than Trae Young. Write it down somewhere.
I don't know. I mean,
the last person
Trae Young gets guys the basketball.
How weird would that be too? Because that was the draft day trade. It was basically Trae Young for Luka. It was a swap. So what if the next swap is Trae Young for Luka 2.0? Are we just trading Trae Young for his entire career? That'd be weird.
I mean, that speaks on this kind of point I want to end. I mean, honestly, that trade isn't like, and Trae Young's not like, his team hasn't been doing good as like Luka's has, but I mean, Trae Young for his kind of, at least on an individual level, kind of, hasn't made that trade a total like bust. He's still.
I mean, who's made it further in the playoffs? I mean, the Hawks made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, so there's an argument to be made the Hawks won. I mean, that sounds stupid because Luka is so much better, but. Alrighty, that's it then. I just needed to end something with a Spurs note since we don't get many opportunities to talk about them, and I'm assuming 2 games is their longest win streak of the season. So
they have like 12 wins on the season, so
they might be at 13 now. Yeah, something like that. So yeah, that's it though. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.